out of order. Let's get our Twitter sent out. Oops, totally forgot to do that. Get the bot in here. Get our Discord taken care of. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is February 26th, and this is the February 26th TextQuest Devstream. So, today we are going to be doing some coding. Specifically, we are going to be finishing up our work on the new JSON parser, and we are going to be moving it into TextQuest proper, which is probably a process that will be started tonight, but will not be finished tonight on the Devstream, just because the new JSON parser is a lot different. Basically the effects should be the same, except actually in an efficient, in an acceptable time frame, with much better efficiency. The only downside is that it does change a significant portion of the JSON API. Not so much the JSON objects, so much as the although actually it kind of does. So it pretty much just changes everything everywhere that's referring to JSON. The only similarities really are the JSON or the class names. Almost everything else is accessed slightly differently, so there's just going to be a lot of things to change, which will be interesting. But we'll deal with that once we finish up with our actual parser. So the only thing that's really left, as far as I can tell, is the need to parse reserved characters. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Anyway, so currently you'll see that we have a bunch of like objects here with various IDs and then empty values. Now we don't actually have empty values. We have, you'll notice, new line, and then it says this is a new line test string. But we're not parsing these reserved characters correctly right now. So what happens is when we parse these into a valid string, this \n is just treated as not as the new line character, but as just \n. So what we have to do basically is when we have special reserved characters like this, we need to adjust our approach to, instead of just using a substring, which will give us those literal strings, we need to basically build a string builder and then populate it before creating a string. So it's a little more cumbersome, but it's not terrible. And I pretty much have the entire infrastructure in place for that. I just don't have the actual parsing going on yet. And the process to do that is actually going to be fairly simple. It's not going to be too super crazy. So let's go ahead and... Oh, right. I'm going to reorient all of my windows so that everything is properly ordered so I don't constantly click on the wrong thing. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close that. And I am going to... and the reason that this is a frustrating thing for me to test really is that I can't really test that inside of these unit tests, which, by the way, everything still evaluates super quickly. But I can't really just evaluate them via unit tests because when we parse these strings, they're not read in as their escape characters. They're just read in as literal characters, which makes it impossible for me to actually get a valid test without doing a bunch of weird finagling. So I kind of have to manually test this particular issue, which is very annoying, but it is what it is. So to get started, pretty much what's happening here is, I'll go ahead and show you real quick. I don't have this set up in the arrays yet, I don't think, but I do have it set up for my parse string, or parse objects. So you can see here that what we do is we check to see if it contains, if the JSON string from the start index to the end index that we're targeting contains a reserved character. And that reserved character is things like, \n, \r, for carriage return and all that. And it's basically, it's going to say, okay, if you contain any of those special characters, then we have to manually build your string. If you don't, then hooray, we're just going to do a substring operation. That'll keep things hopefully pretty light. Not that string builders are heavy or anything really. It's just something that I needed to. I was trying to avoid string builders if I could because I didn't want to really have to deal with basically like populating these string builders and creating instances of them every time I have to create a string, but I don't think it's going to be terrible. So we'll see how things go performance-wise. So let's go ahead and basically what we're going to do is we're going to say for int I equals start index. I is less than end index. I plus plus. Okay. And now all we're going to do is pretty much a very basic if statement. It's basically going to look like this, where we are going to run through. Pretty much, probably just going to copy this actually, and let's get rid of this debug, and we're not going to return true. We're just going to call break here. We're going to check for. We don't need to do this anymore. I'm pretty sure anyway. Yes. Okay. So we're just going to say, okay, is our index in the JSON string, is it an escape backslash? If it is, then we want to check what the next character is. And if that character is any sort of reserved character, then basically what we're going to do is we're going to call I plus plus here to increment it past 1, and then we're going to go ahead and do this. So we're going to have to do break, individually, individually, else we're going to say output dot append, and then we're just going to say JSON string at I. So we're basically going to build this string one char at a time, and moving forward, we're just going to say so output dot append, and then we're going to do new line char. If I could enter that. Okay, for the R, we're just going to say return carriage. For a T, that means it's a tab, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And then for a backslash, we are going to do a double backslash. Is that right? I don't think that's right. I think I want it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we just do a single backslash. Sorry. Okay. So we append those, and then we have to increment manually by 1, because then the loop will skip ahead 1 more. Basically because we need to skip past the next char since we've already determined what it is. So I'm wondering if I should have a debug here. I don't think so. For now, I'm going to leave it like that. And I think that actually might be it. So let's go ahead and let that compile. Shouldn't take too long. And just to keep everyone apprised of the progress on the JSON parser, as of right now, it is parsing 50 kilobytes of JSON in about 0.03 seconds, which is a significant improvement over the old one, which took about so the original method that we used in the new parser took about 6 to 7 seconds to parse that on a separate thread. On the main thread, it was a little bit faster because the main thread has more priority. But on a side thread we create for the parsing process, it took about 6 to 7 seconds. And then the new process now brings that down to 0.03. Parsing 200 megabytes of JSON took at least an hour and a half before. And I don't actually know what the hard number is on that one, because after an hour and a half, I was just like, well, it's obviously ridiculous, so it doesn't matter. And the new process now takes 50 seconds. So 50 seconds is still a very long time, but it's also 200 megabytes worth of data being parsed in and turned into arbitrary values that have to generate a ton of garbage. So, I think it was somewhat acceptable. It's still super large, but it's acceptable. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit play again here. We're going to parse this, and I think everything should come out. Yes, it's going to look a little weird because it's doing new line stuff, but this is correct. Oh, and I can't actually look at it, I guess, so I'll have to. kind of zoom out here. Let's move this over here. All right. So it looks like tab correct? The backslash one kind of looks correct. Yep, because those are escaped backslashes, so they should just be regular backslashes. I could have sworn that my tab one was tabbed on the left. It was, but it doesn't look. I mean, it looks like it did escape it, but it doesn't look like it actually input that tab value. That makes me nervous. I'm reasonably sure that I didn't do anything weird there, so that's curious. Okay, so it looks like it's correct there. It's just not rendering correctly for some reason. All right. I'm not too concerned if it's not rendering correctly as long as it's parsed correctly, since this is just the JSON parser. Okay. So yeah, it looks like those three things are coming out correctly, as you would expect, so I think we're good. Let's go ahead and that's pretty much all I wanted to do for putting the final touches on this. So I think that this JSON parser is reasonably stable enough to fully move over to TextQuest now. It is pretty robust. I'm pretty happy with it. I can access everything using, dictionary and list style interfaces, which is very nice. I probably should comment things a little bit more. Okay. I still think that my threading work could use a little bit of, work. But what we have right now does seem to work, so I'm okay with that, I guess. Um, I will probably continue to experiment with parsing via threaded approaches, but for now, I would just like to get the new system into TextQuest because it's much more efficient and, in my opinion, much more stable. So we're gonna go ahead and let this compile, and here is where things are going to get messy. So importing this into TextQuest is going to be a bit of a challenge. One, because TextQuest already has a class, or several classes for JSON parsing, and of course they are all similarly named to what I have, and that causes all kinds of problems. Fortunately, everything is a static class, so it's not horrendous for me to really kind of replace everything, or rather rename everything, which is probably what we are going to do to start. So I am going to basically rename all of these classes to just like JSON parser old or JSON utility old. A little bit of a boring, laborious process, but it's kind of necessary when we're bringing in classes that are in the same namespace and have the same names. So this is probably the best way forward, I would say. I'm reasonably sure that, yeah, I'm up to date on collaborating. So make sure I commit everything before I start adding things. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just rename JSON parser to JSON parser old. Let's go ahead and go to definition for this. We're going to just rename this to JSON object old. This is probably going to take a while for some of these. Let's see. Try to rename everything in one go if possible, because renaming the scripts is going to suck. As a side note, this does mean that I will now have null value support, which was not a thing I had before for my JSON parser. Okay, I'm reasonably sure that I'm good there. We do need to rename this. So utility hold. Okay, let's go ahead and let that compile over here, which I'm going to drag over here now. Let's see, I'm pretty sure we got everything. Yep. So now we just have to rename the actual script classes, which this is the part that's going to take a while and be a little more frustrating, just because it's going to constantly beep at me, basically, and I probably am going to want to just close this. Oh dear, the worst. Why did I do that? Okay, good. So I'm just going to try to rename these as best I can and as fast as I can, which is probably going to cause all kinds of problems. Okay. Okay, just one more and then we'll be done and it can recompile in peace. Okay. So I'm not 100% sure what the best way to handle this is going to be. Probably it would be to do this. I'm going to go ahead and... Alright, let's create a new folder. I'm going to call this like sleepy owl JSON. We're just going to drag that into here. I'm going to trigger a re-import, which is fine. I am going to export this with the unit tests folder, but not these tests, because we don't really care about these tests. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say export package. We're going to say don't include dependencies, because I can't remember that. Not that it really matters, I don't think. Yeah, okay. Then we're going to uncheck basic rotation, JSON test, thread test, and reserved char. But I do want to keep JSON because that's all of our actual classes here. And I also want to keep my unit tests because I want to be able to, well, have my unit tests there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to say export. We're going to go to, we'll put it here. I'm just going to call this sleepy JSON parser. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and select this and ba-boom. All right. So we have everything. Everything's new. We have our unit tests. That's all fun. This is going to be awkward, I just realized, because I need to basically rename these. So we're going to uncheck these assembly definition files, and I know that's going to cause problems. I'm also going to uncheck this assembly definition file, which I, again, know is going to cause problems. But I don't really want these to be imported, because I'll just delete them once I roll this into common. So we're just going to go ahead and let that go. So I'm going to say import, which I'm sure will probably cause problems to start, but we'll be fine. So also, thank you, Bucky, for the follow, and welcome to the Devstream. Tuned in just in time. We're getting ready to pull over some work we've been doing outside of the project into the project. All right, so that's imported now. Looking for those. Oh, cool, no errors, which is questionable. Oh, that's Okay, never mind. They have the test runner still. Whew, lucky. I was really worried for a second there that um, that everything was going to still fail out. Okay, so let's go ahead and collapse that. Get rid of that. So this is all of our old stuff. Uh-oh, things just froze up. That's never a good sign. Oh no! Okay, what's going on, Unity? There we go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and let's see. So we're gonna move Sleepy Owl Soft down to here. Oh, right, I probably should go ahead and do this JSON old. It's gonna trigger a re-import. And what we're going to do is we are going to move the JSON. Oh, hold on. We're going to move this JSON folder, which I really should have put the tests inside of that. Why didn't I do that? I was quite silly. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of file restructuring while we're here. So I'm going to move, I think, the unit tests folder into this JSON folder, and then I'm going to move this JSON folder into the data folder here. And then I'll make some assembly definitions for our unit tests. And we should be good. Assuming that it compiles ever. Which is admittedly a bit of a hopeless task. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to move this up to here. Okay. I probably didn't actually have to do that now that I think about it. Mostly because I think I have... Let's see. Yeah, unit test should be somewhere around here. Except maybe it's not. That's interesting. Probably I'll create a new folder inside SleepyL for unit tests. Again, assuming that I ever get to move again. So let's go ahead and let that go. All right, there we are. Collapse this. I'm going to collapse the editor. Collapse our UGUI stuff here. Yeah, I guess I don't have a testing folder. Cool. So I guess we can kind of just cheat this. So I'm going to, no. Man. Okay, so I'm going to move the JSON folder down to here, to data. We'll give that a second to compile. And then I will move this unit tests folder to be under SleepyLSoft directly. Which is going to take us a little bit. Oh man, I forgot I'm in 2017 still too. So that means my assembly definition files don't have test assembly markers, I don't think. Which means bad things potentially. It might be okay. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move this unit tests folder down to SleepyLSoft. I really should have just structured this all in the other project. It would have been much faster. We'll give this a second. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my assembly definitions because there are just too many things. So yeah, we don't have test assembly markers in 2017, but that's fine. They'll still have their own assembly definitions essentially. It's just that basically they'll be isolated, which I guess is probably the way that it would be handled anyway, since they would be testing anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to right-click, create assembly definition. I'm going to call this sleepy owl dot tests. Well, how about actually dot unit tests? Yeah, that's fine. And this is going to reference, by necessity, sleepy owl. Common. We are going to hit apply there. And we are also going to do a little bit of a weird thing here where I'm going to exclude platforms that I build to, which is basically going to be the Linux platforms, Mac OS, and Windows. Which is, I guess they, oh yeah, it's 2017, so it still has a 32-bit operation. Give that a second. Ugh, I hate being back in a large project. It takes so long. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same for our editor here. I'm going to say create assembly definition. I'm just going to say sleepy owl dot unit tests dot editor. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and have this listen for HFN, or not HFN, sorry, that's my company that I work at. So we're going to exclude might as well while we're here, like all of these things and that, and these two things. Hit apply. Pretty much going to do the same thing here. These things, these two things, we're going to hit apply. Okay. So that should now compile and be available for testing purposes. So we're going to need to go to, just to make sure, test runner. Go ahead and grab this. Tests. Yes, these are the old tests, aren't they? Yep. So we're going to go ahead and do this, except these guys should probably fail out. Because I don't know why this is under .textquest. Okay, hold on. I don't have any play mode tests, I guess that makes sense. CPL. Okay, these are all kinds of wrong. So does that mean that you never showed up? Or is this because you're compiling? Oh, man, that's potentially problematic. I guess I'll try deselecting all of these things. Oh, shoot, hold on. Yeah, there we go. And just hope that these assemblies don't get baked out. I guess worst comes to worst, I could always just delete my unit tests folder whenever I make a build, which would be frustrating, but not the end of the world. So I'm curious if that will make it show up in play mode now. Oh, that's interesting. I guess we don't really care about that for now then. I don't really need a play mode test. But I do need to expose these things. So let's try that. And once we've tried it, well, once these show up, I'll probably run them real quick to make sure that they're still valid and we're not getting any other problems. And then once we have confirmed that they are all functioning as expected, I will be able to start replacing the old JSON APIs. So that is going to be interesting. Okay. Really? I wonder if they don't like the fact that they're in their own DLLs. Okay, so maybe the workflow is just completely different from 2018. It's entirely possible. Cool. So it's a good thing we have the other project to be sure. Everything should work then, I guess. Which I guess I'll just have to trust and leave here for now, which doesn't make me nervous at all. Let's go ahead and leave that. Okay. I'm curious to know where the freak my unit tests are. So Json Array test. Nope. Okay. It. I mean, I'm not crazy, right? Like parser editor test. Okay. I could have sworn that they were showing up at one point, but must not like assembly definitions, I suppose. Yeah. Don't really have anything in there to force them in there, so cool. Well, let's go ahead and just see what happens here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this. We will get rid of this folder because we don't need it anymore. It is just empty. All right. So first things first, let's go ahead and see where JSON parser old is being referenced, and we're just gonna go through there and start replacing things. Actually, the fastest thing, now that I think about it, is probably for us to just let's get rid of all of these things. It's probably for me to just delete the old JSON files, um, and then basically just fix the errors. Uh, really don't know if that's a valid way of doing it. I mean, that would certainly be the way to make sure that I always found the old calls. But I think what I'm going to try to do to start is I'm just going to try to do it the way I was originally thinking, where I would find all references to JSON parser and then replace it, and then we'll just kind of work from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and say find all references. There are probably going to be several. I'm guessing at least 10. At least. Okay. Under collection. That's fair. So we're actually going to do... Oh boy. This is going to be a thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just change this to JSON object. JO is equal to JSON parser dot parse JSON text for each. So this is where things... I guess that's true. It wouldn't really do that, would it? So let's go ahead and go here. We're going to go to create. It's peak definition, and we're going to make this just a JSON object again. Okay, and things are going to start getting... Oh, wait, what? Oh, that is from that. Okay, we're going to save this. Where T is collection item, let's peek this. I'm going to go ahead and say from JSON, get rid of that. Okay. I think we're good here. Get rid of you, and then we should be good. Come back down here. Peak definition, okay. I could have sworn that I just did that, but I must have... Oh yeah, I must have missed it. Okay. So that's that. Oh boy. Oh yeah. I forgot I was using the JSON parser in my editor utilities too. But fortunately, I think I can basically... So we're going to do this now. Say key name. And here's kind of where it sucks. It would be so much better if I could just use my implicit operators there, but I can't because they caused problems, which sucks because that means that I basically have to do this. Basically JSON string, and then we're going to say dot value. So it does kind of extend the code a little bit. We might be okay if we just do. Actually, you know what? I bet I could shorten it even more to this. Dot raw value as a string. I bet I could do that. And that should basically work. JSON string. Peek this definition. Yep. Okay. Cool. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Then we're gonna go down to here. This is from JSON parser old, so we don't actually care about that. There is no way. Okay, so never mind. That's just a class. So game unlocks. I'm gonna say parser. Right, and here is where. Oh, that's. Okay, yeah. So I guess we're gonna say info dot. It contains key. Yeah. I'm gonna do this. Question mark. Say info of all of that. Let's get rid of you. And otherwise we're going to say that, which is going to be get rid of you. And contains key. And here we need to basically say as JSON object. Okay. Is that? Oh, yeah, we don't need that last one. Okay. Pretty much the same thing. Ah, geez, that really sucks, I guess. Because I don't really have a good way of handling this. But, alright. So we're going to go ahead and say, again, dot contains key, whatever, question mark. And then we'll say font info dot. Grab you. Json array. Otherwise, we're going to do this. And then we're going to paste this in here, and good God, this gets really crazy. Right, and here is where things can get a little messy, because I don't have a way of converting this back into a list of raw values, I don't think. Right? I have, oh no, raw value is just a, yeah, that's not good enough. To boolean, to byte, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, it's problematic. So, oof. Yeah, this is terrible. I did forget to. Well, it's not so much that I forgot. It's I don't really have a thing for it. I think what would be the best way to handle this. Not really a good way to do this. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and say no. I So it's going to be a little more verbose, obviously. Um, oh man, that really gets things to be difficult, though. I really do like having the one line creations for that. Okay, let's go to the JSON array, the class, not the preview. JSON array. So we can create things from those arbitrary values, but we don't really have a good way of retrieving them. So remove that. Next, insert JSON value. This is where those implicit operators would have come in. Yeah, excuse me, would have come in handy. So, what would be the best way to do this? Where are colors being used? Yeah, okay. So, for this, I suppose I guess we would just do this. Okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and say for int I, that is terrible. Go ahead and grab this actually. JSON array, font color, crap. Fonts is equal to new. That's equal to this basically. And then we're going to go ahead and say fonts.count. And then we're just going to say for equals 0, I is less than fonts.count, I plus colors dot add fonts of I. Yeah, this gets so much more complicated. Raw value, and then we're going to cast that to a string. So it's a little more casty than I would like, for lack of a better term. The lack of those shorthands is potentially really frustrating. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and come down here. I'm going to say info.contains key, that question mark. And if so, we're going to go ahead and say it's equal to this question mark. And then we're going to say raw value. We're going to cast that to a bool. So the actual, there we go. The actual values here are a little, okay, we don't need that anymore, do we? So the actual API is a little bit more verbose in its length. It's not bad, but it is less efficient. Mostly because the trade-off. Man, I don't know why I keep yawning. The trade-off for making it accessible via iDictionary and iList interfaces was that we lost some of the functionality for grabbing specific things via function and then passing default values in, which is a little tedious, but I don't think it's a game breaker or a deal breaker necessarily. And I'm sure that I'll be able to figure out a better way to do this, but it is a little difficult, admittedly. Like I could make the generic JSON value stuff be comparable to booleans and such. Oh my god, it's ridiculous. Why do I keep yawning? But if I do that, then it complicates some of the inner workings of how we can assign certain things. Um, so I'm not really wanting to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna go to, oh geez, Markov chain stuff. This is gonna be super fun. Basically, we have to do this. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and get rid of. Well, that stuff's all fine. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do all this fun stuff. Let's get rid of this. Oh man, this is super terrible. I remember how I was doing this. Okay, so for this, we're gonna want to do. I'm assuming this was an add function for. Well, here, I did this too fast. Yeah, get array. Okay. Okay. And then we can do that. That part's fine. Let's go ahead and go down here. Oh, I forgot about this. The add if new. Which I guess we don't actually care about. Crap. Wait. Hold on. JSON. An add if new function that probably just checks to see if it's been used before. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and go to Json Array old real quick. This is the benefits of keeping our stuff around. So I need to go to add if new. Add if new. Okay, that didn't work. Leading chain. Wait, what? Maybe it comes from here. Go to definition. Add if new, add if new, add if new. No. Did it go to... Okay, that's not awkward. Add if new. Really? I guess I don't really care about matching case. Add if new. Okay, there it is. If we don't contain that value, which, ooh, that's a good point. I probably should do this. So I'm not going to add the add if new stuff, although that is potentially useful. Dot contains, do you only have the one? You do. Okay. I probably would like to be able to do something like that. Oh, I can do that, which is nice, I guess. So I guess we're going to have to do this. Question mark. Ah, jeez. Maybe I should just add an add if new. Okay. So let's go to our JSON array. Okay. So I could add a function called like add if new, which would probably be down here, admittedly. public void add if new. Value, and then we're just going to say if not contains value, add value. I'm not crazy about that, honestly. I think I would prefer, well, this is a very specific functionality. I don't really like that. Instead, I'd prefer if I could do something like this. Public bool contains string value for int I equals 0, I is less than list.count, I plus plus, oops, I plus plus. We're going to return false. And then we're going to say if list of I is JSON string, if list of I as JSON string, which I will have to double wrap for terrible convenience. And I'll be able to say dot value is equal to value. And I can say return true. Okay. I think I can actually get around this even easier by simply doing this. Raw value. Get rid of this. And then we're just going to say string. Okay. That does simplify it a little bit. We're going to go ahead and come down to here, and then we're going to say pretty much the exact same thing, just with Boolean. We're just going to convert this to a bool. Paste this all in there. So it contains int value. Make sure that we cast that to an int. And then, oh, I also want this to be is JSON bool is JSON number. Grab this. Paste this back here. We're going to have a float value. Cast to float. Okay. Reasonably good there, I think. We don't really care about null. So let's go ahead and go back here, and we're going to just say if it contains so if it doesn't contain this, I'm going to probably put this in a new line to try and maintain things. So if not that, then we'll say leading chain dot add. Okay, so it does extend things out a little bit. Ugh, you are terrible. Get array, huh? Man. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go back here. And I am going to go up to here. I do not like doing this, but I'm not really sure what else I could do. So I'm going to basically say, after our constructors up here, and after that, I'm going to, I think, add some values here. So we're going to go ahead and say public list of string raw. What's the correct thing here? Did I just call it raw values? Definition raw value, yeah. Okay, so we're going to say raw string values. We'll say get list strings is equal to new list string return strings. Now we're just going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than count I plus plus. If this of I is JSON string, then we'll say strings.add this of I dot raw value, and we'll pass that as a string. Okay, so that is that, which I think is more in line with this, which basically means that I should be able to come up to here and say, give me a second. I guess I got rid of it already. I forget where in this code I basically looped through my array. That's fine. Okay. So leading chain is a raw string array, which is raw string values, right? So I'll say raw string values. Okay. Yeah, here is where things get a little messy. So I can't really do names, but I can do what is it, like keys? Yeah, which is an I collection and is not the same. So that further complicates things. Okay, so that means I have to. What? Oh, you suck so hard. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of try to get through here as fast as I can because this is quite frankly ridiculous. Yeah, I didn't think so. Cool. So I have to do this for each. This is key strings, right? String s in chain JSON dot keys data dot ingram set strings dot add. Sorry, just be s. There we go. Okay, there's that. I'm actually, that is something I can do. I'm actually going to probably set toFormatted string to be false most of the time here, which is pretty nice actually. And this is going to be, okay, so we get this. This is going to be our, this is going to be a little different. Do this. Do this. Let's wrap this as JSON array. Raw string values. That's all good. Okay. I think we're good for this one script. Oh my gosh. There's still so many. Alright. Let's see what else we got here. Item ID collection. We can get rid of you. Get array. Oh man, this is gonna really kill me. I really don't want to do that either. Let me think here. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do this instead of as a for each thing. I'm assuming this is from a refresh. Yeah. So I'm just gonna do a for loop here. I is equal to 0. I is less than JSON dot count. I plus plus. All right. We're just gonna go ahead and say pretty much just gonna copy this, I think. Okay. So we're gonna say create. So the value is going to be a separate thing. So it's going to be JSON of I as JSON object. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and this. All right. Ah, dang it. It's never going to end, is it? I have this as JSON array. Same exact thing. Let's go ahead and copy this. We're going to change some things around. This is going to be for custom JSON instead. And we're pretty much just going to copy this. We're going to paste this. And then custom JSON of I as JSON object. Okay. Oi. That's JSON array. Same exact thing. Copy this. Paste this down here. Let's go ahead. Pretty much this is all going to be the same, isn't it? Old item, new hash, old item, temp. Yep. Okay. Cool. So don't really need to do any of that except for just changing these names around. Did do that correct here, yeah. Okay. All right. So that's that. Now on to the next one. Okay, so that all works pretty much as expected. This is for an object. JSON object. Session info. This is going to be a string as JSON string, which of course won't actually matter. So I need to say raw value. And then we're going to cast that to a string. That one was nice and easy. Okay, let's go ahead and move over here. Oh dear. Yep, this is going to be a thing. Okay, get rid of this. We're going to go ahead and say as JSON array. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. We're just going to paste that all over this part. I know it's going to not work right away, but we'll get there. Square bracket, square bracket, square bracket, square bracket, and square bracket. Okay. We're going to go ahead and say count instead. JSON words. We're just going to be able to do this. I as JSON object. Right. Give me a second here. This is going to require JSON. Oh dear. This is going to be nightmarish once we start doing this. Oh man, it really would just be so much easier if I could just equate them. It really would cut down on so much work. But it also complicates things almost to the point of detriment, so I can't really do that. That sucks. So I can assign them easily, but I can't pull them out very easily. Dang it. That really sucks. Yeah, that's all I can think of. Well, that's fine for now. All right. So let's go ahead and as JSON array. Let's get rid of you. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. Oh man, here is where we start getting into some really difficult areas. Assumptions. So this is probably going to be something that I'm going to be testing quite anxiously for quite some time. Json Array. This actually might be a very significant undertaking in terms of effort and lift. Count. That I can do. Haha! Isn't that nice? So we're just going to do this as JSON array. Boom. And boom. And boom, boom, boom. Okay. Count. And then, yeah, we get into this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say as JSON string dot value dot trim. That should be pretty good. Get string value, right? That gives me default value. I suppose here I would say if not string dot is null or empty, I'm going to give it that string, oops, that, and then we're going to go ahead and say raw value. Okay, yeah. So this has to be string dot raw value. I guess this is the problem with using generic interfaces. Like it's going to complicate things, or rather make things look a little bit more complicated for the sake of convenience. Okay. Ah, jeez. Yep, all of this. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and say string dot is null or empty, and then we're gonna have to go ahead and say string, and then we're gonna say that dot raw value, and there we go. And again, we're pretty much gonna do all of that. So we're gonna go ahead and say JSON. We're just gonna copy like all of this. So I think what I want to do is actually wrap all of this. Put this here. Okay. JSON directions is equal to this. JSON direction as that. Not SD, as. There we go. That's doing good. I need a drink. And I need stretch. Oh my goodness. This was a very silly thing for me to do. But it had to be done at some point, I suppose. Okay, so this is a string. Ah, jeez. All of this again. Right. Dot raw value. And then string dot is null or empty. String. All of that fun stuff. Let's do that. Put this Json Array. Okay, doing pretty good here. Count. Yep, I know. So for this, we want to do string raw value. Okay. Oh my goodness. Plural is we. Oh right, we have to get it as a string value. Wait. Okay. Must have made it all string based. I suppose that vaguely makes sense, but not really. Cool. You know what? I'm actually very curious about this. So I'm going to. Wait a second here. We're going to go ahead and go to drive. Ugh, I hate how slow the drive interface is. Okay, so we're going to go to design, then dictionary. I will load this up real quick. Okay, there you go. So they're strings by default, which is a very dumb thing, but it is what it is. And then we're going to go ahead and say raw value, which is a string, but we'll do this. Okay. And I'm pretty much just going to copy this, except I'm going to replace hidden. Okay. Well, that was for our word, which was completely a diatribe. Oh, man. Cannot have fun with this, can I? Count as JSON object. Count. Let's go ahead and just real quick rename all those. And this is pretty much going to be the theme of the day there. Those are all also going to need to be redone. Cool. But it looks like everything else doesn't, at least, which is kind of nice. So, cool. Let's go ahead and, man, I can't have nice things. Go here. Json Array. Make this account. I know that you're not happy. Raw value, and then we'll cast that to a string, and then we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's say here, raw value, and we'll say string. Yep. You don't really need that anymore, I don't think. Or maybe, I guess. Might as well go to definition. We'll just rename these. Oh, right. Crap. And that I can totally just change to be that. Okay. So that's that. That kind of makes me think that TQ word is probably going to have some problems here. No, maybe not. Maybe we'll just get away with that. It's convenient. Close you, close this. Oh man. Go to definition. The worst part about this, honestly, is going to be the fact that, like, once I actually go through and replace all of these, um, as soon as I go back to Unity, there's probably going to be like 100 more issues that pop up. So, apologies today that we were doing so much array-related things. Not exactly great. All right, so this is going to be an array. Oops, sorry. Json array. Count. Raw value. String. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that works. That's super weird. I don't know why it. Okay, sure, why not? Oh, is this not part of the text quest namespace for some silly reason? No, it is. It just. All right, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness, the cheats. Oh. Let's go to this one next. Object old, all this stuff is fine. That is correct. Man, I really want to change that so that I can just straight up say that it is a string. I don't think that it would be that hard. I really don't. Uh, it just complicates things. Jeez. Raw value. I guess it doesn't hurt for me to do it this way for now. Mostly because even if I do go back and eventually like end up making this inherent casting a thing, um, this is still a valid way to set those values. It's just that it's not as shorthand as I would like. Can we really do that, or will you complain? You're probably gonna complain. Yeah, so we need to do that. Okay. And I guess it wouldn't really solve situations like that now that I think about it. But let's go ahead and come back here. Hit save. Okay. Oh, that works now. Let's close all of these things. Get rid of game unlocks. Get rid of this. God, there are so many things that I have open. Collection item, which we don't really need a collections for. Oh, you are going to now cause problems. Because of course you will. Okay, so we're going to say field name dot raw value as a string. This is an int, so this is going to get cast to an int eventually. Field hash dot raw value. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Cool. So, oh, dang it. Oh well. Whatever. There was a superfluous using up there, which I normally don't like. Okay. Let's go to the next thing. Load menu level. Okay. We're going to go ahead and say get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. We're going to get this set up as an object, as JSON object. Raw value, and we'll cast that to a string, and then we'll be good. All right. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's see. Info is equal to you, is equal to that, is equal to that, which is equal to all of this. You're no fun. This is problematic, actually. I do try get value. Oh man, that just complicates things so very much. Okay. So we're gonna do this. Info.contains key. Question mark. Come back here. We are going to go ahead and say dot raw value. String. Otherwise, we're going to do that. I guess we'll have to do this. Yep. So that extends these safety checks a little bit past what I'm comfortable doing, but it is kind of what we have to do, I suppose. That was, of course, the nice thing about calling these functions is that I could pass just default values and it would handle checking it. As is, I kind of have to manually do this process, and I'm not crazy about that. But it's... Oh, excuse me. Okay. So we're going to need this and this. And then we're going to say value. Come back over to here, and we're going to make this into a string. Let's see here. I think we can get rid of you now. And then we're just going to go ahead and say info.contains key. Question mark. Go back here. Get rid of that. Get rid of you. Oh, sorry. Here we are. Okay. One extra one, I guess, there. Hey. Grab this. Contains key. Let's go ahead and wrap that, I guess, as well. Dot raw value. Okay. What? What do you think I'm doing? Info.contains key. We have our operator. Check string. Info default. Color dot raw value. Are these not wrapped properly? it's a question that I don't know. Why are you saying tuple is wrong? Contains key. I bet I'm doing something stupid. Nope, these are correct. Dot raw value. We're grabbing the info, casting it to a string. We're checking this. We're setting it to color string. Why are you mad? Okay, let's just do this. Default color. Cool, it's not a thing. Node color is equal to info.contains key. Default. Default node color, I believe. So if that's the case, then we're going to say question mark is equal to that or that dot to color. Okay, we're doing pretty well so far. Let's go ahead and set this up. Okay. So now we're just going to say this string info dot, sorry, not dot, color, sorry, default node color dot raw value. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Of course it's a comma. Of course it is. Ah! Why do I do that to myself? Oy. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy this. Paste that. Question mark. Contains key. Raw value. Pretty much just going to do this again, too. So yeah, like all of my lines of code there just got way longer, but okay, that's all nice. We're going to set this to formatted string false. Okay, that's that. I feel like this would have been a better thing for me to stream with music or something, because it's not very visually interesting. Let's go ahead and do this, and then do this. Why on earth? Oh, because you're a Json array. It's perfectly valid. Let's go to here, which itself is going to be a regular JSON now, which means I can go back over to here, and you're going to be JSON array. Dot raw value. Let's cast that to a string. Okay. I don't want to do this though, because that is a terrible, terrible way of handling that. So we want to do this actually. List string. Equal to this, and we're just going to call these tag values. It's going to be for int I equals 0, I is less than just do that. Attack messages dot add range from this. Cool. That eliminates a for loop or for each loop and everything else. So I think we're good there. Okay, so that's our combat info. You're all happy now. How about that? Let's go ahead and close you. And I need to come back here. Woof. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and say for int I equals 0, I is less than items json dot count I plus plus. Not already doing that, right? Yep, okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and say that is perhaps true. Okay. So we're pretty much going to copy this whole thing. And then we're going to say, instead of this, we're just going to say items JSON I as JSON object. I know that you're not going to like it, but you will give it a chance. We're going to go ahead and copy this. Let's paste this in here. We're going to go back over to here, p definition. We're going to do that. We are going to do this. Do raw value, and then we can say string. Okay, string. Oh no, that's an enum. Okay, so that means I need to do this, which of course means this, and then that. Key, this question mark, and then if so, we're going to go ahead and come back down here. We're going to copy that. We're going to go down to here. That's all good. Cool. Isn't that nice? Okay. Let's go ahead and close that. All of these things are working now. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. I'm reasonably sure that this is pretty much the same thing that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and paste this. Except I guess we'll do this instead. Come down here. Instead of items.json, we want this to be what? Enemies JSON. Okay. Pretty much we want. You know what? I'll just get rid of this. JSON of I. Oops. Hold on. Of I as JSON object. And otherwise we're going to do this. Let's copy that to here. Let's go ahead and say peak definition. Same thing. Alright, that works too. There we are. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this. And all of that fun stuff. Oh, man. Too many things. Hello, Garrett. Welcome back. I hear your JSON is the fastest in the West now. It's pretty fast, but I don't know if I can claim it's fastest in the West, admittedly. Still have a little bit to go before I can really confidently say that. So, also, thank you, Ryle, for the follow. Currently, we're in the somewhat laborious process of porting it over into TextQuest proper, which is not super fun. I probably should have done this off air, admittedly, but we'll see how far we can get. I'm gonna go ahead and come down here because there is a fair amount of like the API not almost, it completely changed from the old version to the new version. So the new version is much faster in the sense that I can parse megabyte, like 100. I posted about this earlier in the week, or maybe I guess it was over the weekend. But basically, I can parse about 200 megabytes of JSON in about 50 seconds on a low priority thread, which is, not super fast, but it is fast enough for everything I will ever need. And to give you a sample of what file sizes I'm normally looking at, like the maximum file size I'm sure I'm going to have to ever really worry about is probably going to be a couple of megabytes. And I can parse 50 kilobytes of JSON data in 0.03 seconds. So I'm pretty confident that I will be able to handle all of that. But of course, pulling it into TextQuest proper is going to just require a bunch of manual code updates, which is not great. This is pretty bad code debt, but it is more efficient. So okay, so we're gonna go ahead and come down here, get rid of you, get rid of this. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. As Json Array. As JSON Array. Good enough is music to my ears. Well, and I was joking about how another developer that I have talked with a couple of times at various conventions posted a link to a C++ JSON parser that's parsing like gigabytes of JSON data in seconds, and I was like, no, I can't try to do that. So I settled for being able to parse 200 megabytes in a separate thread from the main thread in within a minute. I think is going to cover pretty much anything I ever have to worry about. So I'm reasonably satisfied with that. Oh my goodness, this is where all of that string caching would totally come in hand. Screw it. Let's just go do that. It's gonna break everything. It's gonna make it so terrible. JSON value. We're about to change my code base on the fly here. Actually, you know what? Before I even do that, let's just go back here. So I'm gonna go to. So this is the JSON project, like just the JSON that contains just the JSON scripts. We're gonna go ahead and change the JSON value here a little bit, and we're gonna see if that causes any problems. And if it doesn't, then I'm just gonna go ahead and port it over. All right. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it so that I can convert between these values and strings and bools and such implicitly. So we're going to see if we can do that. So you can see here that we're saying public static implicit operator JSON value, and then we can take a bool. And what we want to do to kind of counteract that is we want to say, so we're going to do something like this: public static implicit operator, and then we're going to say bool JSON value. If I could type, I'd be able to do this. I'm going to say return. Basically, it's just going to be raw value. It's just going to be a bool and then value dot raw value as that. That's all it's going to do. So let's go ahead and copy that a couple of times. So I need to do it for bool, strings, ints, and floats. Okay, so there's going to be string, okay. Oh, sorry, not int, float. Float. Okay. So now, the only problem I have with this is that it's going to cause some ambiguity in some of my JSON array. Yeah. So, what I can do is I can get rid of these, I suppose. And let's see if that fixes my problem. I don't think that it will, frankly, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. Int float and bool values. Okay. Because if it can implicitly do it between them all, then I'll actually be pretty happy. Because that also cuts down on the amount of code that I have. So I'd like to run the test runner. There we go. Don't know what was going on there. Let's see if that runs everything or ruins anything. Cool. Oh yeah, look at all that. And that's how you know unit tests are awesome. So cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna copy all of this. Let's go back over to here. We are going to, where am I? Oh, okay, yeah, this is the right one. So I'm just going to copy all of this. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm just going to throw this all up, replace it all. Cool. That does mean I have to change my Json array a little bit. So now I will no longer have these functions, which is cool. Let's get rid of that. That simplifies things quite a bit. And that also means I'm going to have to do that for our JSON objects. Down here. And you know I'm all for simplifying stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and we are going to, I'm also going to go ahead and close this so that I don't accidentally edit things here. Yeah, I will say that I really do like unit tests now. Now that I've started getting into them, they are very useful for these exact situations because you could hear my trepidation when I was like, it's gonna mess some things up, and then it's like, oh no, I can just validate all that, and it's like, oh, it works perfectly. It's wonderful. Okay, so that's actually going to simplify a lot of my code here because now instead of having to convert these to strings, I can just straight up do this. Oh, look at that. Mwah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's so wonderful. Oh, that's so nice. In fact, it's so nice. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it all here. Oh, I love it. Love it. Look at how much shorter this code is now. Oh, oh wait, no, that one. Okay, I can't escape from that at least. So I can't really do it for single line if else operations, but you know I can at least do it for everything else. So that's kind of nice. Okay, no need for me to relitigate old code, I guess. So let's just go ahead and let that go. Close that and close you, and we'll go ahead and come back down here, and now I can do this. Bam, bam. Oh yeah, this is nice. Oh, look at that. It's just beautiful. Falling into place. Let's see here. Have you messed with the task runner much, Garrett? I know you said that you wrote unit tests all the time back at your old job. And I believe you also said you hadn't really written much with Unity, but I wasn't sure if you had messed with it at all before. Oh man, I love this. It's so much faster. Oh, it's so much faster. It's so much easier doing it this way. Ah, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Loving this. So yeah, this definitely speeds things up. Can I do it here too? Because if so, that's really awesome. Yes. Look at that. Oh wait, no. What are you taking? Hold on. Okay. So if it's like that, I guess it doesn't know what to do there, so that kind of makes sense. So for these cases, I do actually have to do this. Raw value, and then we have to cast that to a string. So pretty much anytime there's ambiguity, I have to do the long form stuff. But if it's explicit, then at least I don't, which is nice. Haven't touched Unity's test system. It's much easier than it used to be to use, but there are some weird gotchas, like the make sure I click on the right one here. So like all of these edit mode tests have to be in editor folders, even though they're not really using editor code, but they do have to be in an editor folder. And the play mode ones cannot be in an editor folder. They are forbidden from being in an editor folder for some reason. So don't really know why. I feel like that has to do with. Actually, I guess it's not that surprising. I think at some point in 2018, I don't know if it was in 2018.1 or if it was in the just randomly in there, they made it so that you cannot add scripts from an editor folder to objects in the scene, which kind of makes sense. It's weird, but it kind of makes sense at least. And I think that's why you can't have them be in an editor folder, because these things kind of get spawned in and attached at runtime, or probably sort of that's what they're doing. So it's got its own weird, you know, esoteric difficulties when dealing with it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, I think we are pretty good here. Let's go ahead and get back up there. Okay, cool. So that was that. Let's go to combinable switch. Oh, sweet. Yeah, we're not going to do that yet. I am going to try to avoid the interactive objects for now, and not really long term or anything. I just want to like get everything else working before I start working on them, because they are by far the most delicate. Um, loading jumble. This is old code. I do not need this. So cool. We can get rid of that entirely. Level manager. This I do need. Compilers don't like ambiguity. Yeah, that's true. I do put editor code into non-editor folders to keep editors next to the script they edit. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. I typically I try to stay away from editor code and not editor folders, mostly because at work we have, I should not be twiddling my thumbs while I'm talking. I start doing that whenever I start talking about things. At work we work with DLLs. Like we basically, anytime we move to a new project, did I do that incorrectly? No. Okay, yeah, here we are. I just need to say as Json Array. But because we use DLLs, we don't get those compilation flag checks, like like the hash if Unity editor. Like that doesn't work in DLLs because you explicitly have to like declare them, and then if you do declare them in the DLL, that means that they get baked in with editor stuff in them, and then when you try to make a build, it fails out. So basically, since we moved over to using DLLs, I've kind of gotten into the workflow where I try to isolate things as much as possible, and that's also partially because of Unity's after they switched to the assembly definition file stuff. Their approach to that was, instead of having individual editor folders immediately next to the scripts that they're editing, like what you have, which is exactly what my workflow used to be and kind of still is a little bit in TextQuest, a little bit. Actually, I might have straightened that out now, but once editor assemblies came in, like that became unfeasible. So you basically had to just have a master editor folder, which kind of sucked. But okay, so this is going to be here. Here as JSON object, which is probably going to fail out, which is fun. We're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to hit save. I'm going to go over to here. We're going to make this not be JSON object old. We are instead going to come down here. We're going to go ahead and say JSON.contains key hint ID question mark. Raw value. I hate that I have to do this like that, but string. There we go. Sure, that's fine. Okay. And same thing, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. No, it'll be this. Let's paste this in and see if I can do this in a non-awkward way. Okay. And, geez, I hate that Yarg. Can't be nice all the time, I guess. All right. So we're basically going to want to do this. Well, at least that's up. Okay, there we go. Let's try that then. So that's actually pretty nice. Paste that in there. Paste that in there. Oh, that one I actually don't need to do all the fun stuff with. I can just do that. Oh, that's cool. Can I implicitly just cast it then to that? So I no longer have to do the raw value stuff. I can just do this. Okay. Cool. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm gonna write some new tests. Um, just real quick, because I really don't like that. I don't want to trust that. Like, I don't want to assume that that's going to be the case, and then it's just not. Um, mm, hmm. Okay, so I'm going to rename this, I think. So this is going to be equals string test. And this is going to be not equals string test. And then we're going to go ahead and copy this. And this is going to be equals JSON string test and not equals JSON string test. And we're basically just going to reverse these things. Oh no, that's not right. Right, so I basically want to do this, don't I? JSON string, JSON is equal to this. We're going to say JSON, and then we're going to go ahead and say string test string is equal to JSON, and then we're going to say test string. Yeah, that's pretty much what we want. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then go ahead and come up here, and we're just going to do that. And we are not going to do that, so I guess the not equals is kind of pointless there, so we'll just do that. Let's see, test if a JSON string can be equated to the expected string value, and actually it's going to be test if a string can be assigned by directly referencing JSON string. Okay. So that should work. Let's go ahead and let that compile. If it works for strings, then I'm reasonably comfortable with it working everywhere else. Except I probably will still test it because I'm paranoid about that sort of thing. I also hate how long it takes for it to open up these scripts. It's very frustrating. Let's go ahead and come back to here. Unit tests editor. JSON bool tests. Pretty much just going to copy this whole cloth. Grab this. Back down here. Make this bool. Test if a bool can be assigned by direct referencing a JSON bool, test of JSON bool. I really guess this would actually be a JSON value thing more so than a JSON bool, but it's fine for now. Okay, this is going to be equals JSON bool test. This is just going to be bool to string test. We don't really care too much about that, but I'm just going to rename these a little bit. Not equal. It's going to be not equal bool test, which I guess means that this needs to actually go up to here a little bit. Got to keep your code organized. Dang it, and of course that spaced everything out again. Okay, I think that's almost done. Hold on, JSON bool. JSON is equal to new JSON bool. And we're just going to say it's equal to true, I guess. And then we're going to say bool test string is equal to JSON. Let's rename that to test bool. Okay, and that should basically be it for that. So let's go ahead and let that compile. That's never a good thing. That always worries me. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay, I'm reasonably satisfied then. As long as they work for bools and strings, I'm pretty sure it'll work for numbers and such. So let's go ahead and come back to here. So yeah, I can just straight. Oh, actually, that wasn't even what I was meaning to test there. So I guess I'll do a JSON value thing here then. So I'm just going to go ahead and say create testing C# test script. I'm going to call this JSON value tests. Let's click on that, open it up. Except it would not open it up. There we go. Let's just go ahead and copy one of these over. We're just going to go ahead and paste this in there. I guess we'll just call this values. Get over here, get over here, get over here. JSON value. Okay, so this is going to be equals bool test. Or how about set bool test would be the, yeah, that's a better name for these things. I'm just gonna go ahead and just rename these. So I'm gonna call this set bool test. That's just gonna be called not equal test. Okay. I'm gonna go back to here. This is gonna be not equals test. Also be set string test. This will, I guess, just be equals test. Okay. So we're going to come back to here, and all we're really going to do is just say, I mean, it's pretty much that, I guess. Yeah, okay, so this is going to be JSON value, JSON is equal to new JSON bool, true, and then we're just going to say bool test bool is equal to JSON dot raw value. Actually, not even that, it's just going to be JSON, and yeah, okay, that's all I need to do, I think. So we're going to say test bool, and then JSON. They can be equated, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much it, which I mean should work in theory. So let's go ahead and let that compile real quick. I'll run those tests, and then I will probably be satisfied. And then we might, I'll probably finish up the script, and then we'll probably call it a night there for the dev stream, just because a lot of what I'm doing is admittedly going to be just it's just going to be me kind of going through all of my code and replacing all of that. So that's not fun exactly, but it is, it is a step that has to be taken, I guess. But that does mean that I no longer have to do that. I can straight up do this, which is nice. And I guess because I'm super paranoid, I am just going to go ahead and try this. Maybe that is redundant right now. It is a redundant cast, so okay. So never mind, I don't have to worry about it. So let's just jump back to here. But that is nice because it does mean that I can streamline that a little bit further even, which is cool. Okay, so we can do that, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. And this is, hilariously enough, I feel like I could probably do this. Except, oh, alright. Except I can't actually because if it's a bool. Yeah, okay. So I do have to wrap this, which is a little frustrating. So I basically need to do to bool. A little sloppy, I feel. But at the very least, I can do this now. String. String, if I can spell string properly. Okay. And then you gotta wrap all that again. And then we gotta wrap all that again. String. Why do I keep spelling string wrong? Okay, almost done. That's just a string, I believe. Yep. What about you? Oh. Okay. I am going to, for the first time in quite a while, click back onto Unity, and I will then weep. But before I weep, I must hydrate. Oh. Wow, that shows you how old that is. Okay. Yep. There we go. So 47, which means that I probably have something like 10 times that amount of errors that I actually have to fix. So, yeah. A lot of this is going to be in content creation to start, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So, we're going to end the stream there because honestly, the rest of my night is just going to be filled with me, going from script to script and changing the API to point to the new stuff. This is, I think, I'm pretty confident that this new system will be a boon overall, but there is going to be some, I don't know what you would call it, not really growing pains, but like porting pains as I play through. I'm sure that almost everything will break at least once until I can reasonably, address every small issue that I overlooked. But I'm pretty confident that I can get this to work pretty quickly. It's just it's going to be one of those things that's not very fun for me to do. So yeah. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the night. Announcements should be good to stream on Thursday. And I should also be good for this weekend. As a general warning, because GDC is coming up, it's about 3 weeks away now. I am going to be going out to GDC, so that means for that, basically, I'm also taking the train jam, which means that I'm going to go up to Chicago, like on the 15th, I think, and then basically from the 15th through the 22nd, I'm going to be just out of town. And I will, so basically for about 2 weeks, I'm not going to be doing my Devstream because I will, well, be out of town. I will technically be back the Saturday after the 22nd, so I think that's the 23rd. But I will be getting in at like 6 a.m. that day. So yeah, it's not gonna be fun for me. So I'll be dead that Saturday. So I'm probably not gonna be doing my dev stream that day either. Um, but yeah, just a 3 weeks heads up. I'm gonna be out of town at GDC then. So, but for this week we should be good. So, and yeah, taking the train out there, which will be like 2.5 days of game jamming, which is going to be fun. This year, I swear, I'm actually going to do a good job. um, okay, so I think that's pretty much all I had for announcements. So, as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.